Me too.
Okay, well, you're hosting the video now. So you are introducing the project. Go ahead.
What? I'll introduce the Zoom, but...
Well, here we are. We're live.
Hi, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we have our guests, Jason, Sal, and Joseph, and Jason's record player.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making it out. Today we're going to be should not be the host.
We're gonna if I think what Tegan is trying to say is we're going to show some records, and this is a video about the imagery that we want you to associate with your Sugar Hill Gang. Wow.
What?
That just
like that.
Rapper's Delight. That's a legendary album right there. So we're gonna talk a little bit, dork out a little bit on album cover art, and then I'm going to show you all of this stuff that you've been looking at all remote semester, and we're gonna look at some of the square compositions and talk about how to arrange elements within the frame in a square format, which is like kind of harder than you might think. So we're going to do that, and but maybe we should go back to the module for a second. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen, even though I'm not hosting this.
Oh, you just want to own it, don't you? Oh my God.
I do. You know me. Okay, cool. Yeah, we got it. Okay, so we've got.
FYI, before this, I was doing all the share screening, and now Jason has jumped in to teach.
And now I've jumped in because I'm good at sharing, whereas some people don't like to share. But whatever. Yeah. Okay. Oh. So this is an assignment page where we want you to. Is this the one?
This is cover art.
Oh yeah. So we want you to upload a JPEG, and the Joseph has put in a lot of information about DistroKid, which is all of the info about that is actually in the other video. And we're all over the place, so you can watch them in any order if you wish, actually. But the most important thing with your cover art is it needs to be 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. And Joseph, check me on this, 72 DPI, is that right?
72 DPI is great.
72 DPI. So this is something where, so it has to be a square because that is the format that DistroKid uses, and iTunes and Spotify for that matter. And this is, so if you need to be within 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels, otherwise you're either gonna have a massive file if you do more than 3,000 pixels, you're gonna have a really, really kind of pixely file.
And if it's pixely, they'll reject it. They won't accept bad images. So it's really important to follow that, like 3,000, like standard.
And we should go into Photoshop to talk about how to do that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that right now.
Cool.
Maybe I should have had that open beforehand, but oh well.
Well, I always love watching somebody's Photoshop open.
Exactly. It's true. Here, let's use my image from that thing I did in New York, and then I just got to move this a little bit here. Okay, so to take a look at how your file size, your image size, you go to image and then image size. It's pretty simple. And so I've got, wow, this is nowhere near. This would be super pixely, so this is no good. I can increase the number of pixels, but that's probably gonna still make for a really weird image. Joseph?
Well, just go ahead and try. Let's check it out because I mean, one of the things too here is that you're gonna be able to go in and, right after this, Jason, if we could open just a standard iPhone shot, I think that might be at least like a baseline standard that we should just look at, like an image size quality just from an iPhone.
Let's see what I have here. Let's see, that might be an iPhone shot. We're gonna use a painting that was made by one of my sophomore students in sophomore seminar. Theo Hornbacher, just to give. Okay, here we go. This is better. Better.
Wonderful.
3,000 by 3,000. Now, the thing you need to know is that I think Photoshop defaults to inches. So it will probably open up in inches, and there's just a drop-down menu where you can go to centimeters, millimeters, blah, 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 but go to pixels. So this image just on its own is probably pretty good. I'm just going to, what's the smallest size? I'm gonna go on the smallest size because I'm gonna crop this. I'm gonna crop my image for my album cover art. So I'm just gonna go and change it to 3000. And that will make it slightly smaller. See how it got a little bit smaller. Now I have to format this to be in a square.
That's going to be kind of challenging with an image like this that has that white border. So like, what's your kind of creative impulse here as far as like,
well,
are you going to kind of crop in on a space of it?
You know, my first assumption here, I'm going to put my cell phone down actually. Put this over here. Give you a nice view of that glass there. Okay, so I think what I'm actually going to do is, instead of cropping it, I'm actually going to put some, maybe a color on the left and the right. So I'm going to go into canvas size, and I'm going to, again, see it's defaulting to inches. So I'm going to go to pixels, and it'll do pixels for both. So I've got the width is 3000 and the height is 3700. So.
Well, we could go do a crop real quick. We should look at crop.
Okay, let's do the crop.
Super crop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So go cancel out of this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then just go to the crop in the toolbar on your left. All the way to your left toolbar.
Yeah, it's this one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, right up at the top, you can go ahead and click by ratio. See that thing that says ratio? No, I'm sorry. Don't. So go up to the top bar.
Mm-hmm.
And you see those two right up there. You can actually add in a 1-to-1 ratio.
There we go, square right there.
Yeah, and you could actually put in 3000 pixels.
Ooh.
So you might just need to manually enter in 3000 by 3000.
New crop preset?
Yeah.
Oh.
But go ahead and just enter into those two values. Those are your XY values to the left. To the right there. Yep, exactly.
Cool.
So now type in 3000 and 3000.
There we go. Well,
now that's one way. I think we kind of just covered maybe a couple of different ways of going about it. Yeah.
And so I could do, and I know this is not design-wise, this is not great because it's got these lines here. I don't like that this is kind of like on a diagonal like that. But yeah, this actually gives you, if you have a rectangular image and, you know, if you're working from your iPhone or any kind of camera, you're probably going to get a rectangular image. So this is how you can kind of fit fit your image.
Well, you could go now. Why don't you hit enter? Hit the checkbox up there to the far right.
Content, what this? What?
Keep going. Just enter or hit enter or the green checkbox there. Further to
the. What green checkbox?
Well, it's not green, I guess. It'll be.
Is it the check mark?
Check mark.
Right by.
So keep going to your right.
To my right. This way is right. Yeah?
Right.
Yes.
So there's a little circle with a slash through it. Keep going to your right.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. This.
Yeah.
There. Okay, cool. I found it. Sorry, this is all blocked by all of
Oh no, yeah, understood.
Okay.
But now you could just do a transform here. If you could just maybe hit Command T and then just kind of increase scale, and it'll keep in that.
Command T. I did Command T.
Transforms and edit.
Oh wait, hang on. No, I've got to select. I got to select all, and then.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And then.
So there you could get rid of the margin that way.
Yeah, I like that.
Wanted.
Because you could technically also increase the image size as well
Before
cropping it, so that crop, that 3000 by 3000 fits within those margins, if those margins exist.
I kind of like that. Maybe I'll do that. That would even leave some room for text or something.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So crop tool, canvas size, things like that can do that.
So now go ahead and save it.
Yes. Apply the transformation. I'll put that in core.
Awesome.
Okay.
And that's all you need to do.
That's all you need to do. Beautiful. Stunning. Great. I've got my album cover. Okay. And then we want you to upload your cover art here as a JPEG.
That'll be in the assignment. We don't have it visible on our end in this teacher mode, but you'll have a place to submit the file right there.
Okay. And then we also have, this is kind of optional and additional, but so we want you to make an image for your track on the mixtape. We also want a handful of you, or hell, all of you can do this, but we want you to propose an album cover for the entire mixtape. So this is going to be the thing that will appear on iTunes, Spotify, as like the image that kind of defines the entire mix, the entire compilation.
Yeah, so and I think here too, we were just really thinking about like, just as you kind of approach this moment, is really thinking about like thinking about how awesome our core has been, right? Like we've had a really wonderful, wonderful class, and I don't know, just kind of like put some effort into this. We're going to celebrate each one of these images, and I think we'll probably like kind of do some sort of poster of like all of them. But you know, we kind of want to add this like funness to it too, of this sort of like what's the one image that most summarizes all of our experiences together. And so just kind of approach that as a design like assignment and prompt as well.
Yeah. And again, this is bonus extra credit, so but we encourage you to take that on. Oh, and then we didn't talk about the title of the piece as well. Are we still going to do that, or do we just want to do image, like the name of the album?
Right. I think the naming thing will.
We'll save it later. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we also, you know what I have, and we haven't linked it yet, but this is going to be in the module as well. And this is because albums usually have like image and text. So this is a little bit of a slideshow that we put together featuring all kinds of different artists who use 2D imagery with text. And so look through it, just Google the names if you want some more information. And this is, you know, a very incomplete list, but it kind of runs the gamut of, you know, kind of image, text as image. So, so the handwritten sort of scroll or gesture, that's also here. You know, so how much does the hand kind of contribute to the type of language? Found language, found image, found text as image. This is a really fascinating poet who collaborated with like a web designer, and this is a QR code. So when you put it up to your webcam, a shaped poem comes up, and you can read the poem and you see yourself through the poem. And there's a demo on Amaranth's website if you want to see that. So there's also, so hand to, here, this is Marcel Bruteres, who we talked about or linked you to a little while ago, but then this kind of institutional signage as well. So whether you work by hand or digitally, all of these things are going to be things that there's a voice to the language if you choose to use text. So you don't have to use text, but this is something that the album cover is kind of, it's this tendency when, you know, within the industry or within the culture as well. So check out for that. That's called Mixtape Images, and we'll link to that in the module. The final, I think the final thing that we're going to do is,
Well, I don't know what your final thing was. I do know that like we did have Sal had a really cool album cover to share and kind of show us as well. But I know that what was your final thing, and then we'll move on to that final thing. And then Tegan, do you want to talk about the hat here as well?
No.
In the cat party.
Here, I'll hang on. I'll stop.
Party.
Yeah.
This is our intermission.
I think we need to talk about the hat. Yeah.
So we have a collection of these hats throughout my entire household. They're kind of found in different places, but essentially the premise of these hats is we threw our cat cowboy birthday party. I don't know if she appreciated it, but we did. We had a lot of fun, and so we have these hats all around. So they come on when we need to spice things up a little bit. So
That's great.
that's what they're here for.
And that has been your Tegan intermission. That's a new segment we're running. That's a new segment.
That's our
I'll be
Tegan
doing
hat
a song with the hat next time.
Yeah, cool.
Sal, talk about that image that's on your green screen.
Okay. Yeah, so this is it's just like there's like 4 different images to this album cover. It's by an artist, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. He just released an album recently, like in end of March. Yeah, I like this image just because like there's a lot going on in here. And I feel like it really like depicts the current like status of like how everybody's feeling. There's a lot of like mixed kind of emotions here, like people who like maybe in distress versus people who are like enjoying themselves. Yeah, I just like the simplicity of it too. Like there's not really a lot like color wise, black and white. It's very like, I don't know. The characters are very simple. But yeah, that's all I got, I guess.
And I mean, simplicity is something that we have to keep in mind when, it's just going to be like a tiny little icon that we can expand. And that's something that I'm hoping we can all sort of keep in mind of like what the context is of this. So yeah, simple is not easy, but simple seems like the way to go with these things.
Well, even as we're saying this too, I mean, one of the things I think about an album cover is that like an album cover reads instantly and an album cover reads like in depth. And that's like what one of the qualities of like amazing album covers is that they strike you, but then they don't just like leave you empty-handed with like nothing else to think about or experience with them. I mean, one of the things that like as we consumed and experienced media in this way that we haven't really discussed is like the thing you do with an album cover is you kind of display it as an image as you listen to the thing that you do.
Yeah. Like
Lorraine
and Sonotones.
Yeah.
One of the legendary album covers of all time, I would say.
Are you going to put Lorraine on?
Yeah, let's do it.
And the Sonotones? Yeah. So, and as we listen to this, we'll also experience the album cover, which is something that, like, I don't know if you've ever been to Dove's Luncheonette. It's so good, and it's underneath the Blue Line stop hopefully when everything gets back to some semblance. You can go there and you can listen to an album, and they always prominently show the album cover. But typically, I mean, when I used to listen to albums, it's like I'm by myself, I'm laying on a couch or somewhere, and the image is around, and maybe some text and some lyrics accompany it. But it's an experience that you have with the music. It's this tangible element that comes with music that is really one of the things in the music industry that we lost, was that tangible thing to touch and hold on to. How do you polka?
We all have to choreograph a dance. Get better at this.
It's the music of my people. That's the polka right there. Music of my people. Oh, wow, that was fun. Okay, so
I guess inside of music like that, there's really no need to ever look at an image.
No.
Which is why the album cover is so, like, it's not a part of it.
No.
I don't know.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, let's argue.
I'm good. I need to know what Lorraine looks like, when I'm listening to her music. I want to know how she's holding that accordion right there. And I mean, I also need to know that these are Chicago's famous polkas. These are not Milwaukee's polkas. Exactly. We take ownership. We take a civic pride over these polkas. It's a fact.
great.
Okay.
And Tegan, what were you going to say? Because you still had an experience with the album cover.
I think it just prepared me for exactly what I was about to hear, and I'm glad for that. I like a little foreshadowing, a little preparation.
Okay. That's an interesting thing, right? The idea of foreshadow is not something that we've really talked about inside of this idea of like, I mean, we always kind of even maybe use the expression that a book or a cover of a book doesn't, you know, foreshadow necessarily the content of the book. But, and I think that's
solely choose books. So sorry.
No. This is great.
Yeah, I totally judge a book by its cover. I absolutely do that. All growing up, I would like scan the aisles of library books, and I would choose books based on their cover, how their cover looked, and then I would open it up and then read kind of the synopsis of it, and then that would kind of like discern if I took it home or not.
As one should. What do you got there, Joseph?
This is actually an amazing book that I love. And I don't know how you would describe, does anyone care to describe the kind of binding and the way that text is presented? And I'm holding it sideways and I'll show you the text up close.
Ooh.
Is it kind of like a relief square?
Yeah, for sure. So it's like embossed in with a vinyl type ink or something like that. But this book is Terrence Simon's American Index of the Hidden and Unfamiliar. And so these are all places that are hidden and unfamiliar in America. And this is an index of them. It's like the title told us everything we needed to know. And I just read it back to you.
I think that's a really
slow
good...
down.
I think
no way.
Like book covers themselves are really good reference in terms. I mean, I guess I wouldn't normally associate that like album covers to book covers as well, but I think that's a really good reference too, because book covers mainly were just text or like nothing at all, and just kind of like ornamentation of like the book fabric, and that books have kind of had to adapt to catch our attention. And thinking of books as reference of creating sort of an album art with like books being like heavily text, and if like an album art is just text, because still there's like the background to consider and color, and like shape is still can be like a visual appeal to some sort of like album or cover of some sort. So like in the talk of simplicity, I think there doesn't have to be like an image necessarily. Like simplicity can come in other forms as well, even in a text on top of an album cover, if like even the text doesn't have to do necessarily with like the musical accompaniment that happens within the album, that it's like can still be representational.
Yeah I mean, and I think like I also have those experiences that like use those exact same mechanisms almost in the inverse way and kind of push equally and opposite in a way that like there's a contrasting experience between a cover and then the contents inside of it that like equally, but use the same things, not just like arbitrarily, but use them in ways that like almost sarcastically point at the way that I was judging an image. And I like that too. It's like when we call into question like how we evaluate images and how we presuppose the thing that like is inside of that space, and like how the thing inside of it can like push on us too. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how all of you go through and process through this sort of like conversation that we've impromptu had about like album covers that I think is really great. And Jason, I know you were going to cover some aspects too of 2D design in relationship to some of these kind of more linguistic ways that we've been approaching design.
Yeah. I think as just as the last thing, as some practical instruction in sort of just two-dimensional like framing and composition. I'm gonna actually I'm gonna the record needle off the record here. I think it's something that I think just about any art student or anyone who has a visual practice needs to get really, really good at is composing an image in 2 dimensions. So I was, and in sort of prepping for for this video and for the sort of this last little bit of content that we're going to give you, I was thinking about like, I don't know, like showing, you know, doing another slideshow or something like that. And then I realized how many square paintings I have up here. So I would actually like to use my art collection to go over just really quickly, just a few principles of how to lay out a composition within a square. So we're going to take a look at, and here, I think I'm going to actually, here, I just need to figure out how to unmute. There we go. Oh.
Oh.
And I'm going to mute this one. Okay.
I love reverb. It's so
sorry
cool.
about that. Okay, I think we got it. Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to turn this sound down. Okay, there. So I just want to run through. So these are just works that I've gotten either in trade from former studio mates. A couple of these are from former students. Yeah, so I just kind of want to go through a couple of principles of composition. Composition, of course, being the arrangement of elements within a frame. So we're going to look at this square painting by John Henley, who some of you might know. He teaches core and research studio in contemporary practices. This is, I can't remember who made this, but this is by Gene Wilson. I got this at an auction from a place called Arts of Life, where Chicago artists work with clients who have developmental differences. And my former studio mate, Allison Wade, who made this drawing right here, worked with Gene on this painting, and I bought it off of Gene. And this is a small rodent that she painted. So again, fitting something that's quite dynamic into a square composition. This is also by Ange Bedak, this one here, who is going to Bard right now, who was in my research studio a bunch of years ago. Unplug. And then this is Jeffrey Grau, another very prominent Chicago artist. So, so I've got like, oh, you can see my back as well.
Yeah.
So anyways, what are the things you need to keep in mind when you're placing elements within a frame? And I think you have to really keep in mind maintaining balance and imbalance, or either balance and imbalance within the same image, or balancing or imbalancing, if that made any sense whatsoever. but just I want you to pay attention to how like there's kind of like this dead area here. So there's like more kind of negative space here, and more of the space is occupied here. So there's this asymmetry when you kind of divide the frame in half, right? There's more figure here than ground. There's more ground here than figure. So,
I mean, even when I look at that painting, Jason, if I may.
Say, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to like chime in, because just as you were even talking about this, in the kind of visual tension of that negative space that you were talking about, and I even started thinking about proportionality of like color in relationships, and thinking about like how much like space the yellow shape occupies versus the blue kind of contouring kind of outline. I don't know. I'm struck by this piece too.
Yeah, absolutely. And really it's you know, it's a little bit off kilter, but really when you think about it, especially, it's really imbalanced when you kind of pay attention to this diagonal, this implied diagonal, right? Like there's so little space here, there's so much going on here. You need dead zones, you need places of negative space, of nothing, in order to make the frame really dynamic and interesting. Another thing I want you to pay attention to, and here we can go to Jeffrey's, because this actually has, so this is like sort of, the picture is pretty balanced, but the elements within it are kind of a little bit imbalanced. But I want you to, this is something that I always do when I'm laying out a painting, but look at the relationship between the edge of this figure and, here I'll go. So the edge of this figure and the edge of the frame. And it kind of has a really similar relationship to the edge of this figure and the edge of the frame. So these two elements are really centered within the piece. But again, he's got this kind of dead zone up here. And there's also this, I think the one really important thing when you're thinking about
composition and how you're arranging elements within a frame is that there is going to be, you're going to have a good image if you have a strong diagonal, right? So Gene's painting has that. There's this really, really great diagonal thrust that happens between positive and negative. Jeffrey has this diagonal that's kind of happening just implied right up here. You know, there's this really, really nice diagonal that's happening here. The rest of, there's so much glare, sorry. The rest of the image is pretty balanced, and it actually, like, all of these verticals and horizontals follow the edge of the frame. This is the part that really makes it very, very dynamic, right? What else can we talk about with this? It's really, really important to have an area of focus as well. Let's go to John's for that. And also just what Joseph was saying about color contrast as well. There's a light and dark contrast that makes a lot of things really, really pop. This becomes an area of focus. And then this becomes much, much more, so this element in here becomes much, much more subtle. This area of focus is also the thing that's creating a really, really strong diagonal. So, so yeah, and I actually, like, once we can actually get back into the museum, I challenge each and every one of you to find a painting or any kind of two-dimensional artwork within the Art Institute that does not have a strong diagonal in it. You will always find that. So, and what diagonals do is they help lead the eye through the piece, through the frame. So whether you're starting here and going here, or starting here and going here, you can, through the arrangement of elements within the frame, really kind of guide and lead the viewer's eye through the composition, through the frame. So, so yeah, keep those things in mind.
I think, like, and I just really appreciate, like, the kind of language in which we're using as we're talking about these things, because it's kind of like Western music theory, right? Versus atonal music. Is that we're kind of talking about aesthetics here. We're talking about not necessarily like these are rules that you have to ever abide by. These aren't principles of like ideology, but they're kind of visual studies that talk to us about how composition like operates within space and how the eye like reads like through kind of weights and balances and color and these sorts of things. Because, you know, as you kind of approach your album cover, like we are asking you to think about composition, but you can also just gnarl at this thing and just have fun and whatever it is that you want to do, right?
Yeah. And I think the really important thing to think about here is, you know, the composition is so complicated, and the way we sort of approach design, there are many, many options, and there's no such thing as an absolute abject good design or bad design. It's really, you know, getting a sensitivity to what's interesting and what's dynamic. And that's the language that I always give to describe composition. Is it dynamic? Or is it very still and very staid? So, and we all, I think as visual people, we all have a tendency to have a good instinct about these things. And to understand these things. This is the rules of composition, or the language of composition just gives these things a name so we can define them better. So I want you to use this exercise, this challenge, as an opportunity to really hone your language and to think about these things. And
this is the weirdest video right now because I'm just looking at your back.
I know, it's great, huh? Here, we can do that. Yeah. At least I'm trying not to go to the side because that just shows off my gut, but whatever. Anyways. But yeah, so and I mean, these are things when you go into like the prints and drawings section of SAIC of the Art Institute. You're going to be able to look at like like Delacroix's sketchbook, you know, or Matisse's sketchbook, with these like, you know, with these greatest hits of modernist and pre-modernist art. Even the way they lay out their sketches in a sketchbook has an interesting composition to it. Every two-dimensional artist kind of keeps these things in mind. So yeah, it should be this thing that just becomes second nature to you. So anyhow, that's my art collection.
That was great.
Fun times. So I think anything else any other business?
I see Tegan, you just unmuted.
I did, well, because I realized that I was unmuted this entire time, and then my roommates are like making dinner, and I was like, I hope that throughout that whole time that Jason was talking, you couldn't hear that in the background. So I like muted myself briefly out of respect, and then I just unmuted myself. That is all. The end.
Well, the unmute now indicates that, like, oh, someone has something to say. But I will say, no strong diagonals.
Oh, come on. No. Hold that up again. Hold that. I'm going to pin that shit. Hang on.
But what about this? Strong diagonal.
Oh, look at that. CV Wonder's got the fuck out of that diagonal right there.
It's a weak diagonal.
The clouds.
I'd say it's a weak diagonal. But then you have conceptual. This is a dirty white album by the Beatles.
I gotta go. I have something to do.
I see the strong diagonal in there, though. I can see it.
But again, it's like concept, right? Like you can say no to the rules, but then you've got some nice interior kind of space.
You can say no to the rules if you're the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
For all the Beatles.
If you're Ringo Starr.
Okay, so do we have anything to look at collectively on Canvas? We kind of covered album art and all these aspects of composition and iconic kind of performance as well, like kind of cultural kind of in implied meanings, but then also maybe a little bit too about like an acknowledgement of what does any of this mean now, right? And how do we go about and kind of creating meaning inside of these new spaces that we occupy? So,
is it what?
Those were my closing comments on.
Oh, I see.
Albums,
okay, right.
And album art, yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Cool. But if you want, let's close out the module right now. Do you want to go back to a shared screen?
Yeah.
And if anybody's still watching, let us know. We'll send you a present.
we should email us with the secret word, which is
zinc.
Email us. If you email us with the word zinc, that means we know that you watched to the end, and we will send you a major award. What did you want to see on this, Joseph?
I just want to close out. We've got some things down there to post, just as a way to class share in the fun and research is just to go in there and start sharing your top 3 album covers. Please go through and do that. Obviously, no one has yet because we haven't published it.
Well, because this is not live, Joseph.
I know. But next time we check it,
we want populated. We want information. We want content.
And everybody's submissions into the top 5 albums has been really interesting as well.
Yes, it has.
That's been really nice to kind of dig through.
Ivy, I was a major Fishbone fan in 1988. Freddie's Dead.
Yeah.
Freddie's Dead. Truth and Soul. That's right. Okay. Are we good? All right?
Yeah. I didn't know if you... Well, we just have a couple other things down there that are just some references, and there's...
Yeah, but let's just close out by saying thank you, Tegan. Thank you, Sal. Best guest stars ever. Best TAs ever. Appreciate you so much, and wish you were here, even though Tegan's 3 blocks down.
We all wish you were in Bridgeport.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Be
Thanks
well.
for listening. Ciao.
Take care.